Hello, everyone. We are back for another episode in our Empowering Female Leaders in Holistic Health, Business, and Career and Relationships. This week, I have with me Lisa Richer. She is a neurodivergent success partner and advocate. She transforms stuck into success for students, athletes, parents, and professionals. As the creator of Clarity, Confidence, Courage Journey Map, she brings the what and how to partner with your why so she can help you to navigate internal, relational, and system roadblocks so you can continue to thrive in all areas of your life. So, Lisa, I'm super excited to have you with me today. Tell me more about what brought you into this business and how you got into being a neurodivergent success partner.
Yeah, so it's a mouthful. So I'm going to write this down because part of my neurodifference is if I don't write it down, I don't retain it. If you're talking with me and I have a thought, I will jump in and say that thought, and then it comes across as I'm interjecting or being rude when really I would just forget that thought. And so some of those things are also what led me to be here doing the work I do today. Grew up as an undiagnosed neurodivergent individual. So as an elite level gymnast, I had no idea that I had ADHD, that I had visual processing disorder. Like I didn't know about any of those things when I was growing up, learned about them later, much later in life. Went through school not knowing why I didn't seem to fit in, why people would always use the word why. Part of the reason I don't use the word why myself, it's very triggering. And then, went into the working world and was met with things like I was just describing. Why are you taking notes? You're not listening. You're not paying attention. You want to put together the middle of a deck slide when we're just talking about strategy right now. To me, neurodiversity is a prism lighting the table, and strategy happens in that messy middle. And so you can talk about it all you want, and you can try to execute it, but if you don't get into that uncomfortable muck and really hone it and figure it out and have those difficult conversations that no one wants to have, but everyone needs to have. So that's how all this came to be for me. The way that I got into it initially was as a special education advocate, but the term special education and the term advocate have negative connotations when I'm working in the school system. So that led me to shift to be calling myself a neurodiversity consultant, which has then turned into a neurodivergent success partner. Because when I was late diagnosed, I am neurodivergent and I see myself as a success partner. And so my boys, I was gifted not one, but two neurodivergent boys, now almost 16 and almost 20. And so the lived experience of all of mine led me to open the business initially because I had already been supporting my own kids. And then that full circle led me to expanding it into all these different pillars of my lived experience and my professional experience together.
I love that. So how did you create the Clarity, Confidence, and Courage Journey Map?
Yeah. So it came to light, I think, in the same way that the rest of my business came to be. It unfolded without me even realizing it was happening. And so when I rebranded the business back in 2020 to Journey to Bloom, and you would look at my website and my tagline under my logo says Clarity, Confidence, Courage. When you look at when I'm working with the parents, you would see I had my Clarity, Confidence, and Courage package offerings. So I was using the terminology. I was doing all the things that I call the middle, but I had not put a name to it. And so truly the way that it all truly came to be as this journey map for people to understand it outside of my own brain that zigzags was my business strategist had said to me, well, you don't call it a journey map, but you have it on your website as a journey map, but you don't ever communicate it in the way of the Clarity, Confidence, Courage Journey Map, but it's everywhere. And you've been doing this for so many years. And way more than the 6 years of my rebranding. I've been pulling these things in for many years and people weren't understanding me. So what happened was I started to do a lot more podcasting appearances and a lot more media appearances. And in speaking with the hosts, such as yourself, I would get that question. And so I put a name to the work that I've been doing all these years. And it's really interesting because by doing that, I was able to get more clear myself.
Yeah.
And so clarity aligns with internal. So for 20 plus years, I've been working with those different type domains of people in getting clear on what's happening internally, whether they're self-limiting beliefs or their stories they're telling themselves, or society had told them to not think this way anymore. And those were things I went through personally. So the clarity aligns with the internal. And it could be internal happenings within a school system or within a home or within an organization. So clarity can be, it's a very broad, but it's always with internal. Confidence aligns completely in my mind with relational. When you don't have a strong relationship with yourself, when you're not clear on those things internally, you can't have those relationships, whether it's with yourself, with your family, or those outside people. And then courage aligns with the systemic, because unless you have all those pieces together and you're clear and confident with the internal and the relational, you can't truly deal with the systemic in a way that comes across with calm confidence, curiosity, and cohesiveness. And so I was working with my clients with these things for many years. In addition to something I call the ripe ideas, I was calling it the framework, and I kind of call it the roadmap. But how do you reflect, implement, practice, and evaluate those things? And so now the two have meshed together with names. So I came up with the name long after I came up with the processes upon which I do things. What I've become very clear on is, yes, those processes are great, but if people don't understand them in their simplistic terms, which are different than what works in my brain, then I can't get the clients to come to me because they don't understand it. And I realize now that all the years I spent gymnastics in school, in corporations, they feel the way that I did, but it was more like me not understanding all these masses, thinking something was wrong with me, when in reality, we just didn't understand each other. And so that's part of the foundation of what made me double down and lean into this journey map.
Well, and hence the reason I think it gave you clarity in and of
Absolutely.
it, in all the things, clarity in yourself, clarity in direction, clarity in your mindset, clarity in, the work that you're doing and how you're supporting and helping other people as well. So I love that. And I love that they all three, they lead into each other.
Mhm.
Clarity is going to create that confidence, which that confidence then creates that courage. Because without that, just like you said, there is no courage. It's where people fall into that inconsistency gap, or they fall out of line with themselves, or they run back into, different things and patterns, and just it's the ways that they grew up. And I think that's what you're like, even in the trauma healing work that I do, everything that you're saying here even aligns in trauma healing, because without getting clear on what your pattern is, and even for neurodivergence, without getting clear on those things, you keep wondering, why the heck do I keep doing the same damn thing?
Absolutely. And through the therapy that I have gone through since my awful burnout episode where I couldn't get off the couch and I was like burnt to ashes, that's also been part of, like you said, bringing the clarity for me. Absolutely. Sometimes I'll even say that courage is the bookends, because you have to have the courage to give yourself permission to try to get clear, because the hard work of unpacking that trauma and the work that you do and the work that I have done and I'm still doing, without the courage to give myself permission to go there, I would never have even been able to step in to that clarity. But I don't have, so I talk sometimes about courage being on the bookends, but it's really the courage at the end is what keeps it sustainable.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you say on the bookends. If we're looking at a book, let's just grab a book, whatever. Grab the first one that I have here. If we've got it as bookends and we think of it in that way, it starts with courage to open the book. Like you have to grab it. You got to understand what's on the book. What are we grabbing it for? But then even at the end, when it's such a good book and you don't want to close it, now we have to close it. Then we start another book.
Right? You got to do something with it.
Yeah. You got to put it up. You got to use it. You got to implement it. You got to do whatever you're going to do with the knowledge that you just gained from it. I think that's a very interesting concept. And I look at it from a perspective, the brain is so wild in the way that we think and operate. And we keep hearing neurodivergence come out more and more and more with different people who, have late diagnosis of ADHD and just different things of that nature. And I think it's incredible how our brains have adapted to the way that society is going.
I don't know if they've actually adapted yet.
Okay. Okay. Tell me your perspective.
Yeah, I saw you. I heard you pause, and I'm like, as I'm sitting here thinking, I think that COVID blew the roof off of and or imploded the fact that mental health is something that can be avoided, that can be swept under the rug. I believe that COVID also did the same for those of us that are neurodivergent, that were not diagnosed, but had the space, the bandwidth, and the time to share about our journeys when everyone was locked in their homes and we were all going through these things, and social media became an outlet and a connection for all of us to find other people. Truth be told, that's when I shifted from special education advocate to neurodiversity consultant. It was during that time, it was that first year of COVID, and I had been connecting with a lot of people from Europe, and the term neurodiversity was really taking off already. When I first rebranded, I'd say the first 6 months of having IEP meetings with schools, they were like, what does that mean? What's a neurodiversity consultant? What was really interesting though was instead of people being like, oh, you're an advocate, it was leaning in with curiosity. And so that ability for people to just be curious and wonder, that part of the adaptability is still unfolding.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that.
So that's what I would say. And at the same time, there's people that I wouldn't expect to be open to understanding it, that are willing to really engage.
Yeah.
Then there's others that are sitting in a position of being able to make us more inclusive, that are siloing neurodiversity even more.
Yeah.
And so it's very baffling to me that we're hurting ourselves within how we're educating and articulating, because everybody wants their piece of the voice to be, not everyone, I don't want to say that because I'm not that way, but a lot of people want their piece of the voice to be at the forefront. And when you and I had met, we talked about like in collaboration, right? Doing things like that. And you talked about supporting women and these groups that you've brought together, because together we can do so much more than we can alone. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease still. And so if you have a loud voice that's like, no, we need to hone in on this one particular area, then that adaptability, it goes back to square one, kind of like what you were saying with the consistency gap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the way that I'm saying adaptability in my brain, how it's processing it, is that no matter what challenge we go through, your brain's going to operate differently than mine in a challenge, right? And I'm going to go through and find a solution. You're going to go through and find a solution. Neither one of us were necessarily right or wrong, in any way, shape, or form. We got to the solution in the way that our brains knew how to adapt each step of the way to protect us and say, here we go. And I think that's where inclusively we all need to get together on. There is no one way, shape, or form to do things. Everybody has their own unique way of operating and adapting to things. Because I do agree, COVID shifted everything. And I remember telling so many people afterwards, when the world opens back up, it's going to be so vast and so rapid and fast, FAST, that it's going to, we're not going to be able to slow down. We're going down an avalanche at this point. And that's exactly how it's been. You've had technology shift gears so fast. You've had everything you've had businesses shift gears so quickly. Everything has just been like mold, morph, move, 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 move. And
Yeah.
it's snowballing. And I think everybody's brain and the way that they're processing things is so different that we can come together to create something way more beautiful than the muck that it's in. You know what I mean?
I love the messy muck when the prism is lighting the table, right? Like that, like I was
Yeah.
talking about, when you're bringing all the mess, and think back to when we were little kids. I know I did, like I played in the mud. I think back to my youngest, and if there was a puddle, he was jumping in it. And I still have this picture of him. Every time it pops up on Facebook, I'm like, oh my gosh, he was like 4.5. It had just finished raining. He came out of a trampoline class, and he just literally, with his little Crocs on, was just pouncing in the rain. And it's the perspective and the perception. And I don't disagree with what you're saying about when the world opened back up, it was like a mudslide.
Yeah.
And then now I'm seeing in parts shifts happening where some of the school districts across the country and in our state, elementary, they're removing that technology, except for that like one little piece of it they need to have. They're going back to pen and paper. There's some countries that are going back to pen and paper. We need to start to slow down, because multitasking was really meant for technology, not for people. And those of us that have executive functioning struggles on top of how fast the world's moving, we're really struggling in terms of being able to keep up. But when you have the clarity, confidence, and courage to say, I need a break or I need to slow down, it changes everything. I spent, for the first time in 21 years, 12 days away from my home without my kids. Well, 21 years ago was our honeymoon. So, but one of our kids stayed home, our adult son. My other one was at a 2-week program. My husband and I went traveling. And we did up through New England, up into Acadia National Park, and then old Quebec City and Montreal, and then back down to Dartmouth to pick up one of our younger son. And I hadn't been away and I would think, especially when the years that I was in corporate, there's no way I could leave my team for that long. There's no way I can do those things. There's no way I can be off the grid. Well, I have my own business. And not only did I realize that it was okay to be away, some of my clients were like, we're not talking to you. You need a break too. I came back, they're like, wow, you weren't gone very long. I was like, I was gone 2 weeks. It was a long time. And then I had to spend 2 hours Saturday afternoon taking a nap, because when we go on vacation, we are nonstop active, hiking and biking and everything. But what I learned from COVID and what I learned from burnout was that if I don't take time for me, and through therapy, going through trauma informed therapy and moving through that, the life that you live in now, I can't come back and do what I'm doing here with you if I didn't take that time to reset.
Yeah.
But I waited 21 years to do it.
Yeah. Look, even just taking last week for a vacation, it was my first time taking a vacation. I took everything off my calendar. I moved like in years, and I've been running my business for over 12 years. And this was the first time that I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. And I was promoting a program. And I was like, I'm not doing sales calls. I'm telling the universe right now, I'm not doing sales calls. You're going to send me the people. This is the goal. This is the number that I want. You're going to just send me those people, and I'm going to sell for the first time through DMs and not do sales calls. And you are going to help me every step of the way with encouraging these people. So here's my clarity, my confidence, my own courage that I'm taking on this journey. And I'm like, it's going to freaking work. Girl, I hit my goal. And never did a sales call. I did say that if there's a moment that I have to get on a call real quick or whatever, I was going to be okay with that, knowing deep in my soul, like, please don't give me those people. And it worked. I still hit my goal, still did all the things. And I felt refreshed and rejuvenated coming back to my business. I'm like, I've never taken off. And having a business that gave me the freedom to do that was huge. But also, I'm like you. I've been through burnout before. I've lived in those days. It was horrible. I was not the mom that I wanted to be. I was not taking care of my home like I wanted. Like everything was just scattered. And I love nurturing my space. Like my moon is in Cancer. I love to nurture my space. And I couldn't do that because I was not nurturing myself.
Mhm.
So I love the direction that you're talking about here and how you did this for yourself too.
And you were saying you had the business that allowed you. And I would reframe that to say you built a business that allowed you to give yourself permission to do
Yeah.
that for the first time.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing right about myself. I gave myself permission to be free to be me and to do these things because they were important in order to then be able to come back and show up and support my clients as my best version of myself. So that they then could give themselves permission to do that as well. Because people I work with either have children that are neurodivergent or
Yeah.
neurodivergent themselves, or working in organizations that just aren't fitting for them, or are athletes, struggling with those things as well. And me modeling that for my clients, for my families, you modeling that goes to show that you can do these things and put yourself at the forefront. And I could not have said that even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 6 years of therapy that has helped me realize that the world's not going to end. People are not going to, fall apart because I'm not there to be that person for them. Now, does it hurt still sometimes when I'm like, oh, I need you to go away because I need to focus on this, or I'm going to go do something? Or when my kids say, you have something else planned? And at first I'm like, of course I can do stuff. Dad does things. But what I caught myself doing this morning, which was very interesting, was I paused and didn't say that. I thought to myself, wow, I wonder where that's coming from. And what I recognized was I didn't give myself permission to do things for myself consistently for the first 15 years of one of my kids' lives and the first 19 years of the other kid's life. And so now that they're seeing me do things consistently, it's a little bit confusing. My older son's like, yeah, good job, mom. But my younger one's like, well, you seem to be doing things all the time now.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, and that just shows how much I wasn't doing things for myself before.
Yeah.
And I think, gosh, wow, I just wasted all that time trying to be everything to some other people, but not being good to me, which was not allowing me to be my best to those people.
Yeah. And you learned from it. You learned
Yeah,
from it.
of
Yeah.
course.
And
Yes.
then here we are today doing different things.
Right.
So I'm curious, your first step of courage that you had to take, how did that feel? And what did you do?
Oof. Uh, in coming to who I am today, and I also going to say, because this aligns with the book chapter that I wrote in Confident You, called Unbecoming to Become, Finding Clarity in the Chaos. And
Okay.
so anybody that's listening, I'd love for them to get the whole book, because there's 20 some of us females that talk about our different pieces of our different stories, but I will gift yours my chapter. So if we're talking about the most courageous thing that I did, and people think there's so many courageous things I did, like as an athlete and things like that, but I'm going to say the most courageous thing I ever did was to ask my husband to take me to the doctor, because I felt like I couldn't drive because my burnout was so bad that I couldn't even walk without my legs shaking, and I couldn't get down the stairs without, like, my entire internal system was out of whack. My nervous system, my vestibular system, my cranial rhythm, everything was off kilter. And sitting in the room with him and just crying, and him asking me, like, why are you crying? And I was like, because I need to be the strong one. And it's in that book chapter where he's like, whoever said you needed to be the strong one? But what I learned, and so that is probably the most courageous moment for me. And it allowed the floodgates to open and for me to start to heal from how far back did I feel like I needed to be the strong one. And it goes all the way back to the time I was around 5 years old, where I was asked to do things to keep the peace in my family. And I'll never forget the day my therapist said, you do know that you should never have been asked to do that. I was like, Huh? Like,
Yeah.
like a dog, like go cock their head and be like, what? I had that moment, like, really? And then, as the years have gone on, I was like, yeah. Then I got angry and then I was frustrated, and I've come to terms with all those things, but I learned that I was put in positions by people of authority to be the strong one at times where I should never have been put in that position, but it molded and shaped me, but it also eventually imploded me.
I love that. That goes to, I feel like that speaks to so many people who are listening, like a lot of our listeners in our audience who are afraid to ask for help because they're used to being the strong one. And you giving yourself permission to say, I am not okay. I need help in this, or I need support. I think that's a big thing that whenever I have trauma healing clients come in who struggle with the words, I need help, we don't even use the word help. We remove it completely from the dictionary and bring in a nervous system safety word that activates a safe space for them. And typically it's support, nurture, care, things that they lacked during that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, you just summed up what that courage was. I asked for help for probably the first time in my life. And my best friend of 40 plus years and my husband were both like so worried about me because I just couldn't function. And so, yeah, permission to ask for help is absolutely what it came down to.
Yeah. And that's powerful because I don't think we were ever meant to be on this earth to do all the things by ourselves, or else we'd be here alone.
Yeah.
Like, here you are, here's your own little world. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Home, but the little kid movie where they're all in their own little space so far out. It's like your neighbor's like so far away. Every time I see that, I'm like, God, that's so lonely. I'm like, I'd rather be, the one that comes in with that.
Like
But I think it's a human touch, it's a human nature. Like we need people to connect. We are on this earth to connect.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the space of even having the podcast, being able to, connect with people all around the world via Zoom, which thank you, COVID, I guess, in a way that I was able to do this. But it just brings me into the space of where we can all connect together and work through that support, nurture, care that every person needs from somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so well said. It's interesting you talk about, Zoom and COVID, because I did virtual work long before, like when it was instant messenger and Skype, like back with the old like way back in the day. But it wasn't until COVID and all of the virtual backgrounds that I started getting headaches. And a couple of years in, this is one of my neurodifferences. I was like, what is going on? How come every time I get on a Zoom call, I'm getting a headache? I thought it was just maybe Zoom fatigue, or it was the virtual backgrounds. They look like you're moving. Like this is what, like you see my hands going. That's what it looks like if you have a virtual background on. So if anybody's watching this, that's even the shaded, you go like this, and everything's moving. And I get instant headaches. And so the courage to tell people, please remove that background or you're going to have to go off video, which also is a struggle for me because I read body language and that's part of how I can feel and see what's going on. But I had to ask for that. And I think the hardest thing with that one was I had the confidence to ask for it, but then sometimes I had to have the courage to just give myself permission to be like, they're not going to remove it. I had special educators that, even though I asked them to remove it, didn't. I was like, you live in this space. You're supposed to be neuro-inclusive. And yet you're refusing to remove a background in an IAP meeting where I can't actively participate because I have a headache now. So it's, we can't change everybody. And that's in part where we talked about the adaptability or the world adapting. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. And I do think there needs to be more courage. Well, first there needs to be more clarity in what you're asking for help. or what you're needing. Getting clear within, like you said, that's more internal, getting clear on what your needs are and how to speak up for yourself. That's that confidence piece. The more that you do it, the more confidence you build. And then but it takes that step of courage. Like do it the first time, do it the second time, do it third time. Small little steps. I think we are moving into a world of more inclusivity. And I think it's just also helping the word, here's clarity again, helping the world to get clear on why that needs to be. We're all different. We're not made to conform and to be in the space of everybody do the same dang thing. Like, I want to be different. Allow me to be different. You're different. I give you permission to be different. Be you. And I think that's where we need more people to gather together to build up.
Absolutely. It's about, you don't have to understand me to appreciate my perspective.
Yeah.
It's okay to, like you said, be different, but at least respect my differences and appreciate them. And I'm not for everyone, and everyone's not for me. So I think that's a really important thing. But everything that you're talking about here comes back to, you have to recognize that you don't have to do it alone, and that we weren't meant to do it alone. Yeah. Whether it's one person like me, one person like you, a combination of 4 or 5 people, including me and you, for different reasons. We each have our expertise. And that's where, when I talk about my claim that neurodiversity is the prism lighting the table, whatever that table is, whether it's the IEP table, the classroom, the boardroom, the living room, the dining room, it doesn't matter. It is recognizing that we each come with a different perspective and being willing to lean in with curiosity instead of judgment.
Yeah, 100%. And not being quick to give a response to something that you don't understand or you don't agree to.
Listen to understand, not react or respond. Yes.
Yep. Awesome. I love this. Girl, we could keep talking for hours on this. Thank you so much for your time. Tell people real quick, where can they find you? How can they work with you? Tell me a little bit more about where they are, and we'll put all that in the description as well.
Sure. So my website is journey2bloom.com. So very easy. You can email me, Lisa at same ending, journey2bloom.com. YouTube and Insta at journey2bloom. So, very much a pattern. And then my name, Lisa Richer, Lisa Lazar Richer. You can find me under those on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Lots and lots of podcast and media appearances. I'm just out there trying to help more people and collaborate with others like you to make this world, like you said, a more inclusive and place where people can appreciate one another.
Yeah, I love that. All right, last question. One piece of advice you want to give everybody listening?
I'm trying to think, is there anything I haven't said?
Or enhance on something.
Gosh. Yeah, no, I think just give yourself permission to do what feels right and not listen to the noise around you. Trust your gut.
I love that. Not listen to the noise around you. Not be influenced by other things. Just listen to yourself. I love that. Awesome. All right. Thank you, my girl. And everybody else listening, we will catch you on the flip side.